So just for everybody's benefit, Joe is Chief Executive of Cumbria LEP, the Local Enterprise Partnership. Many of you will know that Cumbria LEP is now hosting Cumbria Arts and Culture Network, that since the summer. And so we invited Joe along to talk, really to help us, those of us who are not so familiar with the LEP, understand what the LEP does, what their priorities are, and why they were happy to host the Cumbria Arts and Culture Network when we asked. So Joe has a little presentation that you're going to fly through, I understand, and then there'll be chance for some questions afterwards. So take us away, Joe. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, firstly, I need to start with an apology because I need to leave at 5:02 because I'm jumping on a train then. But Lynsey will pick up seamlessly. So thank you very much for the invite today. As Kate said, I'm the Chief Executive of the LEP, and what Kate asked me to do this morning is just say a little tiny bit about what the LEP is, what it does, where we are in terms of the economy, keen to understand how does it feel in Cumbria post-pandemic and post-EU exit, and then finally why we wanted to host CACN. So Tom, I think you're driving the slides, so we can crack on, please. So in terms of Cumbria LEP, or as we call ourselves, CLEP, we're the strategic economic body for Cumbria, and we're endorsed by government as such. We have a board of 20 members, 14 from the private sector, which actually includes VCSE organisations, and 6 public sector members. We're chaired by Lord Inglewood. As an organisation, we're a company limited by guarantee. So we're accountable to government through our annual performance relationship, to local government through VCSE is the voluntary sector. So, sorry, Nick, I'll try to avoid any acronyms. And basically, we're also accountable as a company. So we are independently audited and do everything that a company needs to do in terms of Companies House compliance. We're currently going through a review process with government. This is a policy as opposed to an organisational review. And the thinking currently is that LEPs will retain their strategic and economic intelligence role, our role as being the voice for local businesses. We will focus on improving productivity and supporting the development of our area's competitive economic advantages. So that's the current thinking on our role. And in terms of moving on, please. In terms of our governance, we see ourselves as being highly accountable to all of our constituents in Cumbria. So we have an extensive governance structure that is looking at the needs of all of our sectors. That's our sector panels. We also look at all of the drivers of productivity through our strategy groups. We engage young people through our Futures Forum. And then we have very specific bodies that are looking at like investment panel investments. We also have an independent LEP scrutiny board, and that is something that does to us. And that's very much part of our commitment to accountability and governance and the highest standards of propriety. So that's our governance. It engages hundreds of individuals, and you'll notice that there is a specific sector panel that looks at creative and cultural sector and industries. So moving on, please. Where are we now in Cumbria's economy? The last 18 months have genuinely been a roller coaster for the economy. Our economy shrunk broadly in line with the UK during 2020. Basically, we saw a 10% economic shrinkage. Ours was probably marginally different in some areas due to our structure. And we have very different effects by sectors and so geography. And if you look at the number of eligible employments that were furloughed, Cumbria is the deep maroon line, green is the England line. At points for considerable time, Cumbria had the highest levels of furlough in the country, and that reflected our economic structure. So 22% of our jobs are in the visitor economy, which was significantly impacted, as was the cultural sector. So the structure of our economy meant that we had some serious challenges. The worst effects on employment were staved off by furlough, and the worst effects of business failure were actually staved off by major borrowing by both government and business. So moving on, please. And on top of all of that, we then had EU exit as well. So if we move forward, please. When we looked at developing our local industrial strategy in 2018-19, we identified a series of significant issues for Cumbria in terms of the future of our economy. And what we've looked at is what's been the impact of COVID and the pandemic and EU exit on those key issues. On the productivity gap, we have a productivity gap between ourselves and national level. We also have a significant productivity gap between the east and west in Cumbria that runs at about 20%. There's no progress that has worsened, but it's certainly not got better. Looming labour shortages is our number one issue in terms of risk. And what we've seen is that has massively accelerated and escalated. So we have now got labour, what many sectors would describe as crisis. So serious labour issues. Cold spots of deprivation and worklessness was a drag given our need for labour supply. And that's remained throughout COVID, but the labour issues make tackling that even more urgent. And connectivity issues, what we've demonstrated with the requirement that those that can work from home is the absolute criticality of strong digital connectivity. So moving on, please. So what's the immediate economic drivers? Well, we're looking at continued national economic recovery, which is demonstrating and growing demand for products and services from our businesses. We've seen the challenges of overseas travel, delivering a strong boost to domestic tourism, which has benefited Cumbria and the Lake District particularly. However, the labour shortages I mentioned earlier are now putting a serious constraint on output, profit recovery and growth for many businesses. And this is a combination of loss of EU workers, loss of UK workers post-furlough. People are rethinking their lifestyles, their priority, and big demand shifts, movement from people going to shops to home delivery. That's increased massively the demand for transport. So what we're seeing currently is supply shortages, inflationary pressures, and tax hikes on businesses. And this is playing into a short to medium hangover in respect of business indebtedness, because business have borrowed more money, they've burnt through reserves. So some big challenges. And moving on quickly, why did we want to host and work with CACN? Well, the first thing is it reflects CLEP's commitment to the cultural sector. We recognise that the sector is critical to both placemaking and place shaping. It helps make attractive places where people want to live. And what we've done over the past couple of years is look to invest in the sector. So we gave a grant, for example, to Brewery Arts for the work that they were doing. We've given grants to Tully House for Project Tully. We want to actually support the growth of the sector. We also are leading the MP11's cultural work with Dr. Claire Devaney working from Cumbria, again, an indication of our commitment to the sector. In terms of our relationship with CACN, we are decidedly a host. We see the organisation as, autonomous, and really we are just providing pay and rations, if I can simplify it as such. And for us, it's really important as an organisation that is here for the economy. I'm being shot now by Jill G's little boy, which is very exciting for a Friday morning. We really want to support the growth ambition of an organisation, because that matters to us, because we are here to see our organisations, particularly our businesses, grow and prosper. So that's why we are delighted to host CACN and look forward to a very productive working relationship, but one that is very much about leaving the network to deliver its own business. So that's it from me. Thank you. I'm very happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you very much. We won't hang about then. If anybody has a question for Jo, please put your hand up, wave at us, put your digital hand up. It would be great to hear this. Charlotte Dunbell has a question. Go ahead, Charlotte.
Hi, Jo. I'm chair of Frame, which is the local cultural education partnership. I don't know whether you've come across these organisations. We work with Curious Minds, who are a bridge organisation for the Arts Council. And our major challenge in Cumbria has been that a lot of the funding is tied to matched funding. So when the Arts Council want to make grants, they'll make a grant if we can match funding. And what we're finding is it's an enormous challenge in Cumbria to find that funding, because organisations, the arts and culture is often seen as something that is really lovely and nice and kind of a bit of an extra. And we're finding that people are wanting people from this sector to volunteer their time, volunteer their wares, because for the love of it. So I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. And I think we're trying to increase participation amongst young people, and there's very low participation in Cumbria, which is why this organisation wants to work with us. So I think we would be very, very interested in working with you to look at further funding sources to help us to grow what we're trying to do.
I mean, I think, Charlotte, when we get to Lynsey's bit, Lynsey's going to talk about the support that can be given specifically to businesses and to business owners. Match funding is a requirement of more or less every grant scheme, and it's a government requirement. I think the challenge that we've got currently, we're going through a massive change in the funding landscape. So big concern that I've got, and I'm not telling tales out of school. I've raised this directly with Treasury, with the number 10 Prime Minister's Delivery Unit. None of the funding that is currently available is there to directly support businesses and to encourage businesses to invest in recovery and growth. So I do think there are some challenges around the funding environment. But what Lynsey and the team would be very happy to do is have a conversation to talk about the wide range of funding sources that are available from other organisations. And I think that's an offer that she's going to make. So I'm definitely not going to steal her thunder.
That would be great, because what we're finding is the businesses don't want to fund us.
No.
Charlotte, that's a barrier.
Let's pick that up with Lynsey in a few minutes, because I'm sure Frame is not alone in those circumstances at all. So it's a really salient point. Thank you. Henry, keep it really brief. Please go ahead.
I was just concerned that there's no mention of the climate crisis that is going to put an awful lot of pressure on our economy and how we work. And I'd be very interested in having a conversation sometime about how we can dramatically overhaul our ideas of our economy to cope with.
Yeah, Henry, today very, very much talking about the cultural sector. We actually have 8 sectors and a massive range of activity. In terms of climate, we have twin priorities of clean energy generation, for which you will see we have a specific sector panel that looks at that. And our other main priority is business decarbonisation. And we'll be working with all of our businesses on those issues. We also provide support to the County Council Statutory Transport Authority on transport decarbonisation. And we also support through our rural sector panel the role of natural capital in terms of delivering sequestration. It's one of our, net zero is one of our 3 touchstones alongside productivity and inclusive growth. So it's absolutely central to what we do as an organisation. But today was very much about this sector. Thank you.
And it would be great actually, Joe, if somebody from the LEP could attend our session on the 8th of October, in fact, this time next week, which is focusing on decarbonisation led by the culture sector. So I'll perhaps have a chat with one of your colleagues about that. Thank you, Henry. Richard, go for it.
Hi, Joe. Just before the pandemic started, we launched a creative and cultural strategy for the contribution that arts and culture can play in the economy. How do you think that's changed, if at all, post-COVID? And where are the main areas you think that our sector can help from a LEP perspective in driving forward the economy?
I think you already know the answer, Richard. We've just agreed that we're going to review the strategy to ensure that it remains fit for purpose. So we've got Colin, the chair of our creative and cultural sector panel, on the call today, and that's an action that we've agreed. The other thing that we want to do is also understand, because clearly we're coming up to CSR, what that means for the funding landscape, and also what messages do we take from the work that Claire has been doing across the whole of the North, the MP11 work. So absolutely, we're doing a review of that, and we would love you and other representatives from this group to engage in that as we move it forward. Thank you. And
Richard might disingenuously have known the answer to that, but it's actually really useful to other people to hear that. It's a really important point. Thank you. Derek, if you can manage it in a few seconds, over to you.
I just wanted to pick up on the apparent paradox between a lack of employment and a lack of labour force. Is that because there is just a complete mismatch of skills and expectations?
Thank you.
Derek, I'll need to answer very quickly because I'm being shouted that my cab to the station is here. So in terms of employment, posts have actually grew by 4,000 since 2019. So we've got more jobs than we had pre-pandemic. The labour supply issues have escalated. So there is an issue, and this is a very complex answer that I can't give in 2 minutes. There is an issue about linking demand and supply, but there is also a much wider issue about our pool of labour and the need to seriously grow that. What I'm very, very happy to do is provide some further details on this, because we've got real information and intelligence on where those mismatches are. The other thing that I'm very happy to do, Kate, is there's a question that's been asked about East-West productivity and where the difference is. And this is very much an economic structural issue. So again, I will provide those things, and if I can feed them back to you, we can answer those questions in a bit more detail, if that's helpful.
That would be very helpful to do that, yeah. But thank you very much, Joe. Run and get your train, and we appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you ever so much for having me, everyone. Hope the rest of the meeting goes well. Bye-bye. Cheerio.
Bye-bye. So that's the sort of big picture from Joe Lappin at the LEP. Tom, are we happy to just segue neatly into
Absolutely,
Lynsey?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Lynsey Parke, good morning to you. Lynsey is the Business Growth Manager for Cumbria LEP, and she's here to really sort of narrow it down to think about how the LEP can help you in your work, your business, whether that's as a one-person freelancer or as a medium-sized organisation. She's here to tell us a little bit more about what's on offer and to hear from you about actually what you would like. Lynsey, good morning.
Good morning, Kate. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks everybody for the time this morning. As Kate said, I work as the growth manager here at the LEP. So I certainly haven't got Joe's level of knowledge and intelligence, but I'll do my best to support you as best I can.
Okay, so yeah, take it away, Joe, and then we'll have questions at the end.
Great stuff. Thank you. And thanks, Tom, for your help with the slides. So as I said, work as the growth manager here at the LEP. What I really wanted to do today was share some details on our business support offer So take that strategic work that Joe and colleagues do and explain a little bit more about what we're doing with businesses here across the county, so what it is that we do and how we're supporting businesses like yours. So first of all, what is it that we actually deliver? So within the LEP, we deliver the National Growth Hub contract for Cumbria. So on behalf of central government, we deliver a business support programme that is free for businesses to access. There's no cost for our time and what I hope is our expertise. And as long as there's at least one of you in business, so whether you're, as Kate said, a sole practitioner, right the way up to leaders of those larger organisations, as long as you're based in Cumbria, and we're here to help you. Next slide, please, Tom. So how does it work? It's tailored advice for you and your business. So every business that we engage with, every individual that we engage with, it's a different conversation. And it's very much about understanding your own unique needs. What I tried to do here with this picture, it wasn't intentional actually, but when I sort of reflected back on things, this is a photograph of Kendall Pauling, and it made me sort of realise the complexity of what's going on with that particular festival. And I suppose how that reflects with the business support landscape. I know how complicated it is, as I'm sure you guys do. What we try to do with that sort of complex world through working with our advisors one-to-one is pick out what it is that you need for your own business at any given point in time, and be able to tailor that support for you and your own unique needs. We also have a range of workshops that we deliver. There's a number already planned in the diary, and we're constantly adding to that programme as we go along. What I would say with our workshop programme in particular is if there are any specific needs that you have from the sector, give us a call, let's have a conversation. If there are any issues that we can address collectively, that's sector focused, more than happy to look at those. We can bring the right contact points in as they're needed. What I try to describe here is, I suppose, a quick summary of what it is that we do. We'll make it our job to understand the breadth of support that's available, saving you time and giving you the freedom to focus on running your business. And really what we're saying by that is, the best way I can kind of describe myself is think of us as free consultants. So we're doing that work, when we're not engaging on events like this, or talking one-to-one with a client, we're actually looking at what's going on in the marketplace, what are funders doing, what grant programs are available, what support programs are out there. The more we understand about you and your business and your aspirations, the better we can then guide you to those right contacts and that support. Next slide, please, Tom. So these next two slides, what I wanted to try and do was give, I suppose, rather than talk about what it is that we do, explain how we've done it with a couple of businesses here in Cumbria, and we have supported a number of businesses that fall within the sort of broad creative and cultural sector. So one example here, principal contact within the business, and I'm sure many of you will recognise this. She's the HR manager, she's the marketing manager, she's the admin person, she does the bookkeeping, and she's a mum, so kind of juggling quite a lot within the business day to day. And through some work that we did with understanding their plans for the business, we started to identify where their main priorities were, where the main concerns were. So we made an introduction to, I actually booked her on to one of our workshops that we've got coming up in a few weeks around understanding finances. So just the sort of finance for non-finance managers, for want of a better description, help her build her confidence around how she can analyse what's going on within the business. We've done a lot of work with them around access to funding. So the conversation started last year as we went into lockdown with some of the understanding the position around grant funding with the local authorities. Businesses based from home, so they couldn't access a lot of the national schemes. Had a look at where we could support there, and also made an introduction into the Arts Council programme, Developing Your Creative Practice. And again, from skills development, knew where they wanted to go with the business, needed a little bit of help again to try and understand what might be available to support them. So made an introduction to a programme called The Edge, which is funded training for for businesses, and they're also in the process. I think they've now gone live with a Kickstart young person as well, so they're supporting one of our young people into work as well. The next slide, please, Tom. Thank you. So this one, a smaller business, one woman band. This one was certainly more than a hobby business when we engaged, but needed a little bit more guidance around making the business more sustainable, and as I say, becoming the main income source for this particular individual. This was more of a sort of business planning piece, I guess. Doing a bit of work around analysing the different income streams that they had coming in, you know, what makes money, what doesn't, how do they make the most efficient use, I guess, of that owner's time in terms of what they offer. We looked at the way that they identified their target audience, who were they trying to reach, and help them actually define an offer. So if you're going to go full-time with this business, what's the best way to put that out to the marketplace? And then did a little bit of work with them around starting to think about what that marketing plan might look like. That's another example. Thank you, Tom. And then last slide for me. This really hit home with me. Art is a business like any other. I think what's important for me, you know, as Joe said earlier, the sector that you're operating within is a really key sector here in our county, and we're here to support you. Whether you're a sole practitioner, you know, freelance creative, or the leader of one of the larger cultural organisations that are operating here, we want to be part of that support to help you continue to grow and to flourish as a business. The one thing I always say to businesses with our business support offer is I'd rather you spoke to somebody than speak to nobody. There's plenty of support out there. We understand the complexity of it sometimes, and the challenge of trying to just get through the day-to-day, let alone lift your head to look at what might be available. That for us is very much our job. So the more, as I say, the more we understand about what it is you're trying to achieve, we can do that work for you. So yeah, as I say, most important message for me today is know that we're here. And any time that we can offer any support and guidance, more than happy to do so. If we can't do it ourselves, if we can't answer direct, we will know somebody that can.
Lynsey, thank you very much. So it's going to be really important that you put your contact details in the chat. Is that okay?
Certainly do that. Of course it is.
The most important thing is that people know how to contact you. Good point, Fliss, there in chat. Please put a link in there as well as your contact details so that people know exactly where to go to follow up this offer, because it's a very genuine one and it definitely applies to businesses of all sizes. So don't feel that this is just for small businesses or medium-sized businesses. You know, sole operators, creative practitioners, freelancers, it's for you as well. Any questions for Lynsey? We have a few minutes if anybody would like to ask anything specifically. We could pick up on Charlotte's question earlier to Joe about match funding and it being a sort of chicken and egg circular situation where people can't break into the funding offer, if you like. What would you say to Charlotte about the support that you could offer her?
Gosh, I think as Joe said, it's such a difficult subject, and you know, one of the things I always say to whichever business that we're supporting, whether it's in the creative industries or traditional industries, I guess, as Joe said, the funding landscape has changed fundamentally. Pre-COVID, to be honest with you, I think things were changing, but there's plenty of money out there. It's knowing how to access it. I guess the start point for me is always being able to understand who you are as a business or as an organisation. What is it that you're trying to achieve with that funding? And then, you know, give us the time to look at what might be available in the marketplace. Completely understand where you're at, Charlotte, with the match funding aspect of it. I don't have a straightforward answer for today, I guess, but would love to have a conversation offline and see what
that would be really helpful, because I think the problem is we're really an education, we're bridging education and culture,
for sure.
and so we're not a typical business. And education doesn't have any money either. So a private conversation with you would be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Thank you. Henry, you have a question.
It's just very quickly, is there information and support and help in helping people set up businesses in alternative kind of economic structures like cooperatives, etc., or is this a traditional capitalist model?
No, anybody in it and everybody. Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah, that's straightforward, Henry. No, we'll talk to anybody.
Yeah, I would just like to hear the discussion more about it, because it never seems to come up. I never sort of really hear about it in any of the chats I've had with people from LEP or any of the information I've seen. Everything always seems to point towards growth, a traditional model of growth, which is extremely worrying in the times that we're living in. With I've just finished a consultation paper which took me 2 hours, and it's all about building new stuff rather than in social capital, and looking at these alternative models. So it's an area that I think we all will be having to talk about sooner than we think, probably. So yeah, that's all.
For sure. I mean, one example, not within this sector, but I'm supporting a growers cooperative at the moment as part of the rural sector. So we're looking at the cooperative in itself as an entity, if you like, but also the farming community that sit within that. So how can we support them to look differently at, at ways of engaging within their marketplace? So yeah, absolutely more than happy to have that conversation and pick up something offline again if that's helpful.
That sounds great. Thank you, Lynsey. Thank you.
Okay. In which case, I think we'll do for now, but obviously there are lots of individual conversations to be had. So Lynsey, please do put your contact details in chat, and then people can get in touch with you one by one. And I hope there's a flood of people wanting that support, or at least able to access it. Thank you.
Of course, no problem. Thanks for your time.
So much, Lynsey. And now for something completely different, as they say, Tom.
Okay, I love that link, Kate. You're very good at this. Right, we're now going to talk about this fantastic thing called the Cumbrian Award. And we're going to hear from Danny G and Greg Mickleborough from Frame, which of course is the Cultural Education Partnership in West Cumbria, as Charlotte was talking about. There's a beautiful little film and 1 or 2 slides I'm going to share with you. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Danny and Greg. And guys, just tell me when you want me to play the film.
Do you want to play the film now, Tom?
Yes, right, excellent.
I think it'd be a good intro.
I was hoping you'd say that because it's so lovely. Right, sit back and enjoy this 2 minutes of wonderfulness, really concentrating on Cumbria and the absolute genius that this award is all about. So I'll just share my screen and we can enjoy it now. Right. Bear with me, folks. Share sound, that's the one. Here we go.
We are the Romans at the edge of their world.
We are the Vikings coming over the hills.
The Angles and the Norwegians and the Danes. We are the Strathclyde Britons and the Picts and the Celtic tribes.
We are the Normans, the Scots and the English. We are the highest mountain and we are the deepest lake.
We are the Maras, the Yakkers and the Lalbairns at Yam.
We are the miners and the dockers and the shipbuilding workers. We are Wordsworth and Potter and Postman Pat.
We are the Blues and the Reds and the Comets and the Ziggers.
We are the farmers and the hoteliers and the nuclear reprocessors.
We are Helen Skelton and Fletcher Christian.
We are Stan Laurel and Catherine Parr. We are Honister and Newlands and Hardknot and Rhinos.
We are Windermere and Ullswater and Derwent and Westwater. We are Wainwrights and Castles and Coal Pits and Copper Mines.
We are Carlisle Cathedral and Hadrian's Wall. We are Ruskin's View and Furness Abbey.
We are Eddie Stobart, Hauling Rates and Josh Naylor running up hills.
We are the Blues Festival and Wannesea and Kendall Calling. We are the Fred Whitten Cycle Challenge and the Bob Graham Round.
We are Longmeg and their daughters, and we are Kingdom Mail at his last stand.
We are a product of our history and our geography, and we are proud.
We are Cumbrians. The Cumbrian Award, a celebration of all of this and much more.
An adventure challenge, embracing our landscape and pushing to our limits.
An enterprise challenge, developing business skills for our future and investing in our community.
And cultural challenge, embracing the rich heritage and vibrant presence of the arts in the widest sense that thrive here in Cumbria.
We are a culmination of all that has come before.
We are the future.
We are Cumbria.
Marvellous stuff. That's really kind of puts a little bit of the hairs on the back of your neck stuff. Right, Greg, I'm sure you commissioned it and probably built it yourself, but take us away. Tell us more about the Cumbrian Award.
I didn't actually, and I'm going to hand over to Danny G, who I think actually did probably build that and commission that. And Danny will tell you. Danny will start by telling you a bit about the award.
I'm just going to leave that
pop in later on.
You took the credit or not? But thank you. Sorry, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Danny G. I've met some of you in the past in my capacity when I was deputy head or head of school at Beacon Hill. I'm currently a head teacher at West Cumbria Learning Centre. The Cumbrian Award, although a large part of what I was going to say was in that video you've just watched, so you've got the picture of it anyway. The Cumbrian Award is something we started to develop a couple of years ago. There are a number of stories that I like to tell that explain the sort of origins of why the what was the catalyst for developing the award. But I'm also told that you're very militant on timing in this meeting, and that we might. I can't go on for too long. So there is going to be another venue, and I'll invite you all to that at the end. That hopefully you can come and hear the full story. I guess these four main factors that underpin the Cumbrian Award. The first one's a big sort of overarching the sense that young people, particularly in Cumbria, lack the sort of civic pride or sense of identity or engagement with their county that we might see in, for example, Manchester or in Liverpool or places where there's that real sense of identity. The example I always use is following the terror attacks in Manchester a couple of years ago. The people rallied behind. There's a band called the Cortinas, and the singers read this poem out at all the gigs they were doing at the time. The people rallied behind the identity of everyone in Manchester being Pankhurst and being the Gallagher brothers and being Turin and being all the things that had come through the history and the culture of Manchester. And it was almost comical that the prospect of young Cumbrians rallying behind the similar sort of identity and pride in who they are and where they're from. There was felt by many, and this contributes to the stuff that Joe and Lynsey have talked about this morning in terms of the labour shortage, that in Cumbria we're very good at, if you like, exporting our best and brightest. Many people do well and go away to university and don't come back, or they don't come back till much later when they're ready to settle down and have families and not be in the sort of prime of their working. Just put them on the knee. Sorry.
It's fine, Danny. You just crack on. It's absolutely fine.
Come here. It's okay. It's absolutely fine. It's fine. Who's this? Daddy talking?
That's more like it. That looks like a Cumbrian Award winner.
There's Reuben. Oh yeah, tell Daddy out. Okay. Yeah. There's Daddy and Reuben. The rainbow. Yeah, Colin, he likes your background. Okay. So there was this real feeling that there was a sense of a lack of identity, a lack of pride, a lack of sort of civic pride, if you like. There were almost a lot of young people were very self-mocking, that they wanted to get away to a city university and away from sheep and cows and things like that. And without really either embracing everything Cumbria had to offer or even realising what Cumbria had to offer. Now, I'm from the complete opposite end of the scale. I moved from Manchester to live in Cumbria for a number of reasons. And when I talk to young people at all, they often found it a bit, they didn't understand the rationale behind that. The idea of developing an award, I didn't want it just to be what I thought or what my school thought. So we launched into quite a big consultation with quite broad education, but also bringing in groups like Lake District National Park, the National Trust, Mountain Rescue. We talked extensively with the LEP. And we talked with Frame and other cultural groups as well, because we really wanted a cultural element to it. One moment, sorry.
Shall I carry on? I'll carry on.
Yes.
So there's three strands to the award: adventure, enterprise, and culture. And Frame is supporting some of the culture strand in there. And really, part of today is telling you about the award, but also is a bit of a and ask of you, Cumbria's sort of cultural community. So one of the elements in the cultural strand is what's being termed a cultural forum. This is going to be a weekly opportunity for children and young people to see and experience art, culture and heritage, all from Cumbria, all created by Cumbrians past and present. And then really for the students just to have open discussions about it, where there's no right or wrong answers. Maybe slide 3, yeah, no right or wrong answers. Just an opportunity for students, children, young people to learn about, reflect on the contributions that are made by the likes of you, really, Cumbria's artists, artisans, heritage practitioners, and cultural organisations. So what we'd like help with, if you can move on to the next slide, Tom, is for you guys to share or give permission to share, quite simply, just a digitised example of your work or practice. Whether you're an independent artist, a heritage craftsperson, you're a museum or a cultural organisation, just one or even 2 digitized examples of your work. And ideally share this along with a couple of open questions that are going to start a conversation about your work. And then each week, a different example will be shown to the students online throughout the school year. So your work will be up for 1 week during the school term as part of this online forum. And the forum's fully moderated as well, so all your posts are going to be vetted and all of the students' posts will be vetted. So really it's just an opportunity to share the amazing work that happens across Cumbria that is made and created and presented by the likes of yourselves. This isn't a paid commission, this is really just an opportunity to share a piece of your work or your practice with children and young people across the county, as part of their sort of broader cultural education in terms of what Cumbria can offer. If you wanted to get further engaged with that, then you could join that conversation online with them during the week at which your work's being shown. Or if you're an organisation, it might be shown at the point when there's an exhibition, for instance, or there's a presentation of a piece of theatre or a film. All of those things are possible. And really, we would just like your help in trying to sort of engage and broaden that. So some details have just gone up on here. If you just hit the next slide. Running alongside the Cultural Forum, there's going to be a series of in-school workshops, which are going to be practical, practice-led, artist-led workshops in any art form and any craft form at all, delivered in schools, fully paid as you'd expect. And if you're interested or you've delivered these kind of workshops, then Danny's contact details are on there. I can share this deck in the chat if that's all right. I've got a PDF of this as well. And there's further information. The Cumbrian Award website, I believe, goes live on Tuesday next week at the launch. And I think Danny will probably just finish off and tell us a little bit about that launch.
Yeah, sorry about the ongoing situation here. I guess, Greg, you've got to the ask before I've sort of fully explained what was going on, but I think people have got the idea. There's a lot of data from Cumbria Outdoor Education Partnership that suggests young people don't engage in the Lake District and National Park and on adventurous activities. There's a lot of data from research by Frame and other organisations that young people don't engage in culture. And those of us from education know that. Can you hear that in the background? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear it down to about 30 seconds, then we're going to have to move on.
Curriculums have been extensively cut. Okay, I'll send the information out to Greg today if you can disseminate it about the launch. One thing I will say is it won't be this Tuesday. Sorry, Greg, I need to speak to you about that because of a number of sort of COVID-related isolations. It's been pushed back a couple of weeks. I'll send that information out to you today. Do apologise about this. In answer to Craig's question in the chat, I'm very sorry. At present, there's about 30 to 35 schools picking this up. They're largely in West Cumbria because there's been some funding there, and that comes back to the funding conversations earlier. But the award has been written with the intention that it is accessible and it's non-specific to any area in Cumbria, as the video we made with the students from the pilot, I hope showed. We're looking at the whole of Cumbria eventually. So again, if anyone has any contacts there where we could grow this, that'd be fantastic. Apologies about the background, and thank you very much.
Danny, that's nothing to apologise about. Life is busy, Danny and Greg, thank you so much. Greg, do put all the contacts into chat, and and the deck of slides as well if you'd like to, but I think the important thing is the contacts. I think people have got the idea of what the project is. It looks fantastic to me. I love the film. I think it's really inspiring. And, you know, aiming at young people and trying to keep them from disappearing from this fine county of ours. That's partly what this is about. Then I'm all for it. So thank you so much for your time this morning. Craig, you've got about 10 seconds to ask a question. Could have got something else to squeeze in before the end of the meeting.
Can we use the video?
Can we use the video? Yes, we can, is the answer. Great, good question. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Greg. Let's move on to another wonderful thing. And we're going to hear now from Dan Whitehouse from Rosehill. Dan, if you want to come off mute, I shall get the 2 slides up. Off you go.
Yep, great. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep, so I'm Dan Whitehouse. I'm the Creative Community Development Producer at Rosehill Theatre. So I've obviously been looking at our kind of strategy over this next year and really kind of thinking about how we can develop new initiatives and projects. So one of the projects that I'm bringing in this month is called the Bakery of Slow Ideas. And it's a project working with an organisation called Unfinished Business, who are a kind of creative theatre performance kind of making initiative. I delivered this project in Derby, and it's a beautiful kind of community focused project. And the idea is that basically it's a kind of a day-long session where you get to make sourdough bread using traditional, what they call the mother or the levain. And this levain has actually come from Italy. It's been passed on through generations and had a different bit of flavour wherever it's gone. So this project will be the first time in Cumbrian, and we'll be able to add some Cumbrian flavours to the kind of levain. So the day is a kind of creative workshop meets baking workshop, where you get to kind of obviously learn the process of making bread, but also through that there's discussion, there's creative writing, there's time to reflect and have conversation. And we kind of framing it around the kind of, you know, the challenges of the past 18 months, but also thinking about what are the kind of positive things moving forward. So the company are going to be in residence here week beginning the 18th, 19th. They're going to be delivering 2 sessions that week. So the first day, we're focusing more on the kind of local Copeland community and working with like referral agencies. But on the Saturday, we're opening up a session for the kind of creative and cultural community. So we're really looking at just in terms of how, you know, welcoming people to the venue to kind of join in, to take part in the process, take part in the workshop, to really experience the day. And talk and explore about and look at the challenges around the kind of creative community. We're focused West Cumbria at the moment, but the idea is that we're hoping to bring this project back again next year and have a longer stay and work and deliver the project with more communities and also involve artists in the process. So that I suppose the day, once with a better phrase, it is a taste, a kind of pilot process this time, but then we are looking to bring it back next year. But it is a really light-hearted cultural experience, but obviously with the baking being the kind of central through line. So yeah, really, it's a really lovely project, and I delivered it in Derby to a group of refugees and asylum seekers who hardly didn't speak any English, and it was just a beautiful, cathartic day and experience. So. And also, you know, an opportunity just to relax and think in a kind of cultural, creative environment, which I think a lot of us, you know, we don't kind of get time to do that. So, yeah. So if you're interested, please, my details are on the flyer. I think that's been distributed. So drop me an email or drop me a line, and you know, we've got some spaces available for.
Great, thank you, Dan.
We will also be looking to bring it back next year as well. So.
Thank you, Dan. Can you just pop your email address as a contact into chat once more? Bliss is just asking, is the typo in your email address intentional, Daniel? So we'll see whether it is or not when you pop your email address into chat. Great stuff. I love that. I'm looking forward to coming to Rosehill actually on Friday to come see George Egg with his amazing machines that cook things and whatever. So I'm looking forward to visiting Rosehill. So good luck with that, and it sounds like a great project. Thank you very much, Dan, for your time this morning.
No problem.
Right, we're almost there, 10:27 by my clock, but we've got a big meeting coming up in a week's time, and I'm going to ask Kate just to remind us what that's all about. Hopefully Lots of you know about it already, and to look forward to it. So Kate, over to you.
Yep. So this time next week, we'll be in the throes of our next quarterly meeting, The Art of Saving the Planet. How can the culture sector in Cumbria drive low carbon transition we all need to see? Do come along. I know it's 2.5 hours of your time, but what could be more important just now than to give this really critical subject your time and effort and consideration. We've got great speakers lined up, as if the subject alone wasn't enough of a driver. We have Richard Leaf from the National Park Authority, Karen Mitchell from Cumbria Action for Sustainability, Andrew Ellaby, who is the Arts Council's lead on environmental responsibility, and Dr. Rebecca Whittle from the Centre for the Environment at Lancaster University. All for free, isn't it marvellous? So please do come along and join us 9:30 next week. Just the usual way of receiving the codes first thing on a Friday morning and joining us by 9:30.